Welcome back to the Emotional Abuse Recovery Podcast. And today I wanted to talk about how raising your emotional vibration can help you recover from emotional abuse. And I really feel like this is important because for many of us, we have been stuck in this lower vibrational state. And we need to move that into a higher vibration so that we can actually start to feel better. Now, there are some ways to do this, and I'm going to give you some tips and techniques on how to make this work for you. And I hope this helps you, and I hope that this is something that you can take with you throughout your healing journey. So stay tuned because I can't wait to dive into this topic. Welcome to the Emotional Abuse Recovery Podcast, a podcast specifically designed to help you heal after a toxic or narcissistic relationship. This podcast teaches you to use your subconscious mind to go from feeling stuck to set free. In here, you will learn how to use the power of your own mind to free yourself from emotional pain, move forward with confidence, and experience the inner peace you deserve in your healing journey after emotional abuse. I'm your host and subconscious reprogramming coach, Allison Dagny. So let's get started. All right, so let's just jump right into this. Let's talk about emotional vibrations, okay? Because this is what I want to be able to help you with and support you with on this particular episode. Vibrational energy experts actually claim that certain emotions and thought patterns that you have, such as joy and peace and love, that these create high frequency vibrations, while other feelings and other types of emotions like anger and fear create a lower vibrational rate. Now, I looked up online to find a chart, and you can Google this really easily to find the different energies. So when you're looking at a chart like this that actually measures these emotional vibrations, the ones that have the highest frequencies are peace and joy and love, whereas some of the lowest ones are guilt and shame and fear and things like that. And as survivors of emotional abuse, a lot of times we are stuck in these low vibrational emotions, which doesn't help us to be able to heal and move forward. So because you're a human being, it's not possible for most people, at least people that I know, to just automatically raise the vibration. It's not like you are turning up the volume on a radio. It's not like you are changing the frequency that you are emitting from yourself with the push of a button or some sort of dial. Now, I think that would be really nice if we could do that. If we were just feeling sad and we could just turn up the frequency to joy, wouldn't that be amazing? But that's just not how our brain is wired. Part of this process, a very big part of this process, is going to be rewiring your subconscious mind. And that's what this is about, right? This entire podcast show, not just this one episode, but the entire show is always coming back to your subconscious mind. So if this is the first episode that you're listening to, I would highly recommend you go back to number 1, start at the beginning, and work your way up to and through all of these episodes. Now, it's also really important information to know that this can bring up a lot of fear. This can actually bring up a lot of concerns for people shifting themselves out of a very low vibrational state to a high vibrational state. Some people may even feel confused about it or not really understand what it means. So I'm going to give you some detailed information on what this actually means and how you can start to change what's going on inside of you to raise this frequency. I'm going to also be talking about things that are not related to the subconscious mind as well, but I think, as you know, this is a really, really important piece to be able to make these permanent shifts inside of you. So let's first talk about, define, and explain these higher frequency emotions. And higher frequency emotions are very positive, they're very uplifting, and they're these like affirming feelings for your life that contribute to this overall well-being and happiness, right? Which we all want. We are all striving for that. And these emotions vibrate at a higher frequency energetically, and they're often associated with things like positivity, connection, fulfillment, personal satisfaction, things like that. So let's talk a little bit about some examples of higher frequency emotions that will help you understand this more deeply. So let's start with one of my favorite ones, which is joy. Joy is my favorite emotion of all time. Joy was lacking in my relationship when I was being abused, and it was like, almost felt like it was unattainable to me when I was in that relationship. Now, since I have escaped that relationship and worked really, really hard on healing myself and reprogramming my mind, I have been able to access joy, and I can actually access joy almost like a flip of a switch now. As long as I'm not like in some sort of position where I'm feeling threatened or unsafe or really sad for some reason, if I'm just out and about, just walking, I can think of something that would bring me joy and just feel my body fill up with this immense feeling of love and joy and gratitude, and it's like a heart swell. So joy is a deep feeling. It's a deep feeling of happiness, contentment. It often is coming from meaningful experiences or personal achievement. So that's why I said, like, when I can attain that inside of myself, it's because I am thinking about something and thinking about something that has been very meaningful to me, or that is aligned with something that creates that joy. So it can be this actual, like, a state of bliss and a lot of inner peace. So I love joy. It is one of the greatest higher frequency emotions you can experience. The next one I want to talk about is love. Love is a very complex emotion, but I believe love is also an action. So it's not just a feeling, but especially when love is directed towards yourself and other people, or even like the broader aspects of life and society and the things that you experience and love, maybe your pets even, it involves a feeling of affection or maybe compassion and this interconnectedness between yourself and all the things around you. So this is another one of these higher frequency emotions. Gratitude is another one of my favorites, because this is all about appreciation and being thankful and being in a state of positivity for things that you have in your life. When these can be small things or these can be big things, doesn't really matter. But it shifts your focus from what's lacking in your life to what is present, what you actually know that you have. So we can find gratitude in all different areas of our life. Even when we are in the midst of suffering, holding feelings of gratitude actually can raise your vibration so much. So that's why I want to do this podcast too, this episode, because I want to talk about that as a tool to help you raise your vibration. The other ones that I really want to touch on too are self-worth. Self-worth refers to valuing your own self, like recognizing that value of who you are inherently, not for what you do or anything like that, but actually just because you are worthy for being human. You have a value just for being you. And so this is about self-respect, and it's about accepting yourself and having and holding a positive self-image about who you are. Another one is peace. Peace is so wonderful, and especially if you've experienced emotional abuse, domestic violence, you know how amazing when you actually can feel peace, how precious that is. But peace is this state of tranquility, it's calmness. I think of it like a lake that just is perfectly smooth like glass, free from disturbances, no stress. And this can be inner peace. It can also be external peace within your relationships and the world at large. The last one I want to talk about here for a higher frequency vibration is compassion. And compassion is so good. And this is another one of these that we can use. Gratitude and compassion are two that we can use like as tools to help us raise our vibration. So I'm going to talk about those in more depth as we get through this podcast. But it's this ability to empathize with other people, with their suffering, with their issues that they're having, and maybe even a desire to help them with it, or a desire to alleviate it, or help them through it. This is the part of you that is kind and understanding and willing to help other people. Maybe not always willing, but at least you're holding that vibration for them. And a lot of times this can come in the form of prayer and meditation, where you're holding these feelings of compassion for others around you. So the reason that I want to talk about these and why they're important and why they matter is because they really enhance your personal well-being. These higher frequency emotions contribute to your overall well-being, right? And how you show up in the world, your personal satisfaction with your life. And they actually can help promote more balance inside of you, which then can reduce stress, which can reduce anxiety, which can help you be more present. So holding these kinds of higher frequency emotions, like I said, there's no switch for it, but you can start to practice different ways that can actually help you raise the vibration. Now, when you employ techniques like rapid reprogramming and you're actually working to shift your subconscious, a lot of these things start to happen on their own, because as you work these things through, you will start to shift and change what is creating those emotions, right? Because I always talk about that. The subconscious beliefs are creating the emotions. So if you're having lower frequency emotions and you do the rapid reprogramming and you're self-aware and you're challenging your subconscious beliefs and you're doing all of this stuff, then that automatically shifts that for you. So we can do that part, but then also there's other things that we can do to help raise those vibrations too. So another thing that is really important about high frequency emotions is that can really help improve your relationship. So when you are embracing these kinds of emotions and you're holding things like joy and love and gratitude and compassion and self-love and all the things that I just talked about, this really can help foster healthier relationships between you and other people, because you're promoting things like understanding and empathy and positive communication, and you're valuing things like peace and love and joy, right? So it can actually inadvertently, or indirectly maybe I should say, help improve your relationships just by raising your vibration. Another reason why that these high frequency emotions matter is because of your personal resilience. And people who experience higher frequency emotions are often way more resilient when they're faced with challenges, when they're faced with adversity, when things happen that they're not used to or that never happened to them, that are, where by most people's standards, traumatic or difficult. So the attitude of positivity and having this sort of automatic, high vibrational, emotional setting for yourself can actually help you with problem solving and with coping with these things. So that's why, another reason it's really, really important. And the fourth reason that I feel like is really important is your physical health. So there has been actual proof and evidence that holding high vibrational emotions and positive feelings inside of you can have an absolutely positive impact on your physical well-being, because there's a mind-body connection happening here. So, this can boost your immune system. It can even help you live longer. And I remember this one time I was really struggled with migraines a lot. And I was sitting in my bed in the morning and I had woken up with a very, very, very bad headache and hadn't slept very well. And I happened to just hop on my phone and I was scrolling through and I saw a funny video. I don't even remember what it was now, but it started to make me giggle. So I started watching more and more of these funny videos. And as I was doing it and I was laughing about it and it was raising my vibration, I actually started to have the pain in my head disappear. It was because the joy that I was experiencing was actually changing the physical aspects inside of me. So I wasn't feeling the pain. So there are all kinds of studies. You can research this and look it up, but maybe you've heard of Patch Adams, that movie from years ago with Robin Williams, where he came into these hospitals with children who were suffering from cancer and using humor to help heal them. And it's an amazing story, but a lot of these things are out there for you. You can look them up. There's studies and evidences of all of this kind of stuff. So isn't that an amazing thing that, that mind-body connection that we have actually not only just helps us internally, but it can actually help us physically as well. So, when you are thinking about these things and deciding what you want for your life, like how you want to be feeling and what are the things that you want more of in your life, thinking of these higher vibrational emotions is definitely one of those things that should be on that list. Not just that you want to have a fulfilling life and a good relationship, but like, what do you want to be feeling? Do you want to be feeling peace? Do you want to be feeling gratitude and self-worth and joy? This is important. So let's look at the difference between these like higher vibrational emotions and the lower ones. And the ones that are lower can often lead to stress and anxiety and depression. And they absolutely can negatively impact your physical health and can weaken your immune system. If you've ever, experienced a time of great stress in your life, you may have memories of getting sick, coming down with a cold, something like that right afterwards. And maybe you have some sort of like cold sore breakout or something like that when you get stressed out. That's not a coincidence. It's because of the emotions that are surging through your body. Your whole entire body is listening. Every cell in your body is listening to what's happening and what you're believing and all of the things and all of the emotions that are surging through you. So staying calm in the face of adversity or stress can really help you when these lower frequency emotions start to rear their ugly head. So I'm not saying we don't need to feel emotions. We certainly do need to feel them, but it's allowing these things to compound or accumulate or last longer than they need to, right? Like, I feel like it's important if you're feeling an emotion to experience it and let that emotion move through you. But when we're holding these emotions for long periods of time, or when we allow them to take up residence inside of us, that's where the physical ailments may start to also take up residence. The other thing I wanted to mention about these lower frequency emotions is that they can and often do trigger your fight or flight response. This is part of your nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system in your body. And when something happens like this, like fear or anger or whatever that might be, what happens then is your brain becomes clouded because of the emotions, because of the trigger. So this will be something that hinders your ability to think clearly or to be rational or to be logical or to be able to make decisions quickly under duress or under stress. And so if we can shift this when we are experiencing something that would be highly triggering, upsetting, or whatever you want to define that as, then we can raise the vibration into something more peaceful, more calm, and then we can think clearer. Then we can respond more effectively. We can communicate more clearly. And I think that most people would agree that that would be great. That would be great if I didn't have to be triggered and then go into this immediate spiral. So it's important not to just ignore any negative or low frequency emotions that we might have. It's important to always be aware of the emotions that we have. And if you've heard me talk before on this podcast, I'm always going to say, what's first? Like, what are you feeling? Acknowledge it. Let yourself feel the emotion. And then we need to figure out what it is that you're thinking about that's creating that emotion. And then we can actually start to challenge that to shift you out of that low vibrational emotion into a much higher one. The most important and amazing part about this is that we can consciously choose. We can choose the thoughts that we think. We can choose our actions. We can choose this. So a lot of people think, well, I can't choose how I feel because my emotions are just my emotions. And I remember I used to feel this way too. And I remember it's really tough, especially if you're still in a fight or flight state, right? Then it is like almost like it's impossible to um, change that way you feel. When I was in my abusive marriage, I used to say it all the time. I can't help how I feel. I can't help that I'm angry. I can't help that I'm sad. I can't help it. And I think that that's true because I was in a nervous system response. I was in fight or flight for a significant percentage of that time that I was married. But when you're healing, when you're no longer actively under fire or actively being attacked or actively in that nervous system response, and you're starting to go to therapy and you're starting to try to get the triggers under control, when these are the things that you're doing and the actions that you're taking, then it's easier to take control of your emotions because then you can be aware of what's creating them, which is all the things in your subconscious mind. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about reprogramming your mind so that you can get yourself into a higher frequency state. And then I'm going to go through some tips that you can actually put into practice to try to make this happen for you. So if you have a pen and paper and you're not driving or you're not on a walk, then take some notes. So neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change. And science has proven that the brain is still capable of change at any age. They used to not believe this. They used to think that after a certain point that it was impossible to change, hence the phrase, you can't teach old dogs new tricks, which has been disproven, and actually you can change your brain. So when we are talking about neural pathways and these formations of neural pathways that happened since we were very young, so the day we were born all the way up until we were about 8 years old, all of that stuff that we experienced from our childhood was creating neural pathways that started to create our belief systems, and then that would impact who we are, our personalities, and how we would show up in the world. And the good news is we can change that. So even if you grow up in a family where you were programmed to believe certain things and now you're like, oh, I can't believe my parents told me that, or oh my gosh, I can't believe that that actually is part of what I think, you can change it. And that's the really exciting piece about this. So changing your baseline emotions of these low vibrational types of feelings like sadness, depression, anger, fear, shame, guilt, those kinds, we have to actually start reprogramming our mind first. Because again, the beliefs are what create the emotions. So if we can shift those beliefs through being aware of what they are, through starting to make a concerted effort to challenge those beliefs and look at other possibilities, then automatically the emotions start to shift, right? So that's going to be number one. Another thing is that you can do things like positive affirmations, and I've talked about this before, but positive affirmations are helpful and they will help you raise that vibration. They're maybe not going to be what changes your brain necessarily, but they will help you change your vibration because you're focusing on something positive. So when we're talking about neuroplasticity and changing the brain, you actually have to speak the language of the subconscious mind. So it's not going to just be about saying, I'm good enough 500 times a day, right? You're going to have to prove that to your brain. But you can say, I'm good enough, and you can smile at yourself in the mirror, and you can tell yourself nice things, and you can speak lovingly to yourself. That will also change the dial. It will start to help you raise that vibration. Visualization exercises are another really great way to do this, and I like to use visualization because I'm a very visual person. Some people aren't as visual, and that's okay, but if you're not a visual person, then I would suggest looking at like pictures on the internet or in magazines of things that you want for your life. If you want things to be joyful, find images of joyful people, or look at old pictures of yourself from the past where you were happy, or times in your life when you really did experience those kinds of things. So, but if you are good at visualization and you like to do it, it's really easy because you can do it anywhere, anytime. You could be walking down the street, you could be at the grocery store, you could be driving, just sitting at your house. You are just holding a vision, a visualization of what you want for your life and what does that look like. And you paint that picture for your brain, and your brain likes it and raises the vibration for you. The other thing is meditation. I think meditation is super helpful for raising your vibration. I can get into a very relaxed state with guided meditations. I just use YouTube a lot. I find some music that I really like and just listen to it, clear my head. And you can even do guided meditations that are for positivity or for bettering your self-worth. And these kinds of things will also help you raise your vibration. Another thing is sharing with other people. And a lot of times we don't consider this very often, but when you think about when you're in the worst time of your life and you are talking to other people about it and you're venting about it, what you are doing is you are actually creating a vibration in that moment about what you're talking about. Now, I do need to say that venting has its purpose. Venting can be very cathartic and very healing. The problem is when you are venting for way too long, when you are venting every single day, all day long, when you're totally focused on all of the negativity, then you're doing yourself a disservice because you're holding a negative vibration. So instead, what you can do is try to share your success stories with other people, or try to encourage others because you've been maybe where they are now. So looking for opportunities to share, but that are sharing in the positive, are sharing in that higher vibrational state of excitement, of joy, of love, of peace, or whatever that might be. So those are just some ways that you can actually take action today, even if you're not doing rapid reprogramming with me or any other coach, that you can actually start to slowly raise the vibration for yourself. The last one that I feel like is super important is gratitude and compassion. I'm going to lump these together because I feel like it's just holding these emotions. Like they're emotions that you want to hold. It might be harder for someone to just hold the emotion of joy if you're just feeling really sad. But for most people, they can find something to be grateful for. They can think of something that they can express gratitude about. Even if you are in a really low state, you could probably think of one thing that you're happy about, like your bed, like your cozy bed and your pillows and your blankets, or grateful for your pet who is always there to support you, or grateful for having food in your refrigerator or running water in your house. So there's always something to be grateful for. And when we hold that feeling inside for just maybe like a few minutes of gratitude, that actually raises your vibration too. Same thing with compassion. So if you're finding that there are other people out there who are less fortunate than you and you're holding feelings of compassion for them, that raises your vibration as well. So these are really easy things that you can do if you want to try to do this on your own. Okay, so some of you might be listening and saying, oh yeah, I can do this, but others of you might be saying, oh, I don't know, like this is foreign to me. I've never really done this before. Is this really going to work? Is this possible for me? And I want you to know that there can often be a source of resistance or fear when it comes to this because you may have never done this before. You may have just been in this state for so long and so used to it that it's very foreign and can be very uncomfortable. So anytime that we're experiencing change, it's important to know that there will be a level of discomfort. However, when you take action in the direction of that fear, it oftentimes reduces the fear itself. And it doesn't have to be anything major. It can always be just a very simple step. So go back to the things that I said, maybe if you wrote your notes down, and just pick one thing and say, okay, what could I try today to raise my vibration? How could I actually try to do that? Can I try to hold compassion for someone? Can I be in gratitude about something that I have in my life? Could I start doing some positive affirmations? Could I practice challenging my thoughts? What's something that you can do to overcome the fear? And the reason why it's important is because We do not want you to be stuck in the fight, flight, or freeze response to where you cannot take action. So, some things that you can do to manage this fear, to try to step out of your comfort zone a little bit, would be breathing. Breathing is a really great way to get relaxed, calm yourself down, and there's all different kinds of ways that you can employ breathing techniques for yourself. So I would always suggest finding something that works well for you, that you feel really comfortable with. Some people don't like holding their breath. So I like to do one where I do hold my breath, but some people maybe have had issues in the past where they've felt suffocated or they've felt constricted, and holding your breath is just not something that you like to do. And that's totally understandable. So you should pick something that works well for you. But breathing, again, you're bringing oxygen back to the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which is the part of your brain that's responsible for logic and reasoning. And that's important when you're trying to help yourself understand that you're not really in a state where you need to be afraid. So that's why breathing is so important. Another thing is positive self-talk. Positive self-talk will really help you overcome this fear or this resistance that you may have. Because if you're telling yourself you can't do it, or you're telling yourself it's going to be too hard, or you're telling yourself that this is impossible, well, that's not positive self-talk. Think of it like if a person you knew was saying those things to you in your ear. You would be like, this is such a negative Nancy. I don't know why they're in my life right now. So telling yourself positive things is a way to overcome that. Catching these thoughts in your, mind when they're coming up, and then stopping those thoughts and thinking of it in a different way. No, I actually can do this. No, this probably won't be impossible if I just take a baby step, right? You're just playing a different role for yourself versus the one that's been playing on repeat for so long. And again, action, right? This can be gradual. This doesn't have to be anything like jumping into the deep end. You can just dip your toe in the water and make it really, really simple. But it's important to recognize that sometimes these fears are not actual threats on our life. They're just stored memories from trauma. And so distinguishing the difference between what is a real fear that is, a threat to you versus what isn't is going to be really, really important. Now, the last thing for if you are coming up against resistance about doing any of this is the importance of being patient with yourself. And even if you, let's say you're like, oh, I'm all gung-ho, I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to do some affirmations today. And let's say you don't do them and you just go about your same routine. That's okay. You've got to be kind to yourself. You've got to be compassionate to yourself, right? The more you do that, you're actually raising your vibration. So even when things don't work out the way that you wanted them to, or if you were trying to take a baby step and it didn't work out, or whatever, like, be nice to yourself. That helps you raise your vibration, even in itself. So another thing that you can do is come to my free Thriver session on October 25th, 26th, 29th. You don't even have to come to every single day if you can't make it, but at least sign up for it, because then you'll get the replay and then you can watch it. And that will help you raise your vibration too, because I am bringing the joy. I am bringing the excitement. I am bringing the fun. I'm bringing the energy and the enthusiasm, and I'm bringing the information. And I'm going to be helping everybody who comes there to enjoy themselves, to be a little bit silly, to kind of feed off of each other's energy in a positive, uplifting way. So, and this is totally free. So if you are like, I don't know how to raise my vibration, and I was just listening to this podcast, but I don't even know where to start, just start by signing up, right? That's all you have to do. You'll get reminders, you'll get emails, I'll tell you when it's going to happen, and then you can come and you can just start to raise your own vibration just by being there. So thank you for listening today, for tuning in, for taking notes, for trying your best to be the best version of you that you can. Like, if you're here, give yourself credit, because you are making changes already just by listening, just by being here, committing to yourself to make these changes. Give yourself some credit, seriously, because this is so amazing. You know, I have a lot of listeners on this podcast, and the more people who hear it, the better off that we're going to be as a whole for this entire world. So thank you for being here. If you want to sign up for the free 3-day Thriver session, the link is in the show notes at the bottom, or you can just message me or email me. I'm happy to send you the link there as well. Thanks so much. Talk to you next time. Thank you for being here with me today in the Emotional Abuse Recovery Podcast. I hope you found value here with me. If this podcast episode was helpful to you, I'd love for you to hit subscribe and leave me a review. My goal is to help you go from feeling stuck to set free. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook, and you can check out whentearsleavescars.com for more resources and information to help you with your own emotional abuse recovery. Until next time, here's to believing in